There are two big questions circling the Kansas City Chiefs as their debut in these playoffs approaches. We just had the Saturday of the wild card weekend, and I did not see the Texans absolutely blowing out the Chargers. The other game, the Ravens and Steelers, that was to be expected. But there are two big questions circling the Kansas City Chiefs as the divisional round of the playoffs approaches. Number one, will we see at some point the return of Jalen Watson? But number two, what's going on at left tackle? We don't know right now. It's kind of up in the air. I threw my pin. I have another. That's fine. Joe Thuney has done an admirable job at the left tackle position, really stabilized the line in general, as Mike Caliendo has been able to step up at offensive guard and perform well there also. DJ Humphries was brought in as a possible left tackle solution, and it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, that DJ Humphries was the hopeful solution all along. That his injury, we just started hearing about DJ Humphries coming back from injury, and all of a sudden he was signed to the Kansas City Chiefs. It seems to me that what the organization was doing or trying to do was say, hey, we have Kingsley Suamataia that we think is the future at left tackle. We have Wanya Morris, who we think is an answer at left tackle. Let's go this season with the two of them, and if by the time DJ Humphries is healthy and able to go, that question has not been answered, we'll bring in DJ Humphries. Well, DJ Humphries came back and was promptly injured again, forcing Joe Thuney to, because here's the thing, the Kansas City Chiefs could have just kept going with Kingsley Suamataia and or Wanya Morris at the left tackle position. But by that time, they had to figure out what they were going to be doing for the playoffs. At that time, the last month of the season, you have to be ratcheting things into place for the long drive through the playoffs. That was, in my opinion, what was going on there. That's why we all of a sudden got the answer of Joe Thuney at left tackle. But DJ Humphries returned from said injury, and he was out there on the field in Week 18 against the Broncos, leaving quite a bit to be desired, in my opinion. I've heard others say, guys whose opinions I kind of trust, say that no, he didn't look bad, he just was rusty. Having dead legs, I don't know if that's just rusty. His arms were responsive. He had good hands. I just don't know that his footwork is going to be there. I just don't know that it is going to be. So do we trust DJ Humphries going into the playoffs? Well, in an article from Arrowhead Pride titled Chiefs Andy Reid, DJ Humphries is, quote, moving in the right direction, end quote, subtitled Kansas City's head coach was upbeat about his new left tackle, but wouldn't commit to starting him in the playoffs, again from Arrowhead Pride, written by John Dixon. We get the following. One of the players we were watching carefully during the Kansas City Chiefs 38-0 loss to the Denver Broncos last Sunday was DJ Humphries, who started the game at left tackle and played 94% of the offensive snaps. That's another bad sign, guys. If they had seen what they needed to see, they would have taken him off the field because that's our left tackle, man. We don't want him out there. The team had signed the veteran offensive lineman on November 22nd to take over the position that neither second-round rookie Kingsley Suamataia or second-year player Wanya Morris had been able to hold down. But in his first start against the Los Angeles Chargers on December 8th, Humphries suffered a hamstring injury that kept him out the next 3 games. So, Sunday's game was the last opportunity for Kansas City's coaches to see if Humphries is ready to step into the role in the postseason, which would allow the team to move Joe Thuney back to his normal and ideal position at left guard. Thuney has been playing left tackle with reserve offensive lineman Mike Caliendo filling in at left guard since Humphries' injury. I thought DJ did a pretty good job there, he said, Andy Reid. There were a few plays he'd probably like to have back, but he's headed in the right direction. One of the plays that he would absolutely like to have back was a rush, I believe it was Nick Benito, that was just kind of never touched. Straight to the quarterback. Boom, 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 snap, boom. However it is that you want to onomatopoeia it. It was 1-2 and not a good look. You can't afford that with Patrick Mahomes standing back there. Still, Reid was unwilling to be pinned down about which player would get the start at left tackle in next week's divisional round game. I haven't made any decisions on that. Which direction to go right this minute, he revealed. So we'll see. We'll get there by the time we get there. We'll get there by the time we get to the end of next week. The first point that I want to make here is simply this. There's been a lot of hollering online, perhaps, about this article, this opinion, this stance from Andy Reid in both directions. Number one, people saying that, well, you signed him to be a left tackle. What are you doing with Joe Thuney at left tackle? If he's your guard, you're making your line weaker. The other side of things being people saying, look, Andy Reid's not willing to write him off. The number one thing that I have to say about that, what do you expect Andy Reid to say? Do you expect Andy Reid to come out in this press conference and say, yeah, he sucked? DJ Humphries looked like DJ Dumfries. Andy wasn't going to do that. Here's the thing that I will always go back to. Do you remember the most recent Super Bowl that the Kansas City Chiefs won? It was the final drive. You remember the drive where the Kansas City Chiefs were driving to win the game as the 49ers had taken the ball first in overtime. It was, I believe, 2nd and 7 or so. And Patrick Mahomes throws a 6-yard out route to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, setting the Chiefs up for a pretty decent and convertible third down. That way they don't have to use the fourth down option, despite the fact that they would have anyway. It's the nuclear code. You're in the final drive of the Super Bowl. Of course, you're going to go for it on fourth, but he threw a 6-yard out route to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who promptly broke a tackle and then ran backwards 9 yards. A miserable play. The one where, you remember this, they showed every Chiefs player doing this, one by one. Just one by one, everybody going, what was that? Do you remember the next play? The very next play after Marquez Valdes-Scantling made maybe the most boneheaded play in Super Bowl history. There's been a lot of big ones in the playoffs, but maybe the dumbest play in Super Bowl history is a guy catching a ball and running backwards 9 yards during the final drive of the game. The next play was a 7-yard in route to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. That is Andy Reid. Remember how much Mecole Hardman struggled last year when he wasn't with the Kansas City Chiefs. He went to New York, he took the money, and things went poorly for him with the Jets. The Kansas City Chiefs reacquired him, and he caught the game-winning pass in the Super Bowl. Sky Moore, rough rookie season, catches the game-winning pass in the Super Bowl. That is Andy Reid. Andy Reid is not going to give up on his players, let alone in the media. Give up on his players in the media. You do not know how Andy Reid truly evaluates DJ Humphries, and neither do I. Here's what it really comes down to. Is Mike Caliendo better at guard than DJ Humphries is at tackle? Because I think, really, when you look at it, left tackle is more important than left guard, and Joe Thuney is better at guard than tackle, but he's good at tackle. So you're not leveraging the Joe Thuney piece of this. What you're looking at is Mike Caliendo better at guard than DJ Humphries is at tackle? I would kind of err on the side of yes. I think that Mike Caliendo probably is better at offensive guard than what we've seen from DJ Humphries at left tackle. I think that DJ Humphries at left tackle has really struggled in the limited exposure that we have here to him, but maybe it is just ring rust. Maybe that will get knocked off. The third point here, this is maybe not a note for this playoff run, but as I hope to be making videos in the future, it's something interesting to look at. The math that the Chiefs will be doing with this position, because this is going to be the 5th consecutive offseason that the franchise has had to consider an extreme amount of O-line work in the offseason. That alleged Super Bowl versus the Buccaneers was the 2020 season Super Bowl. That was where both offensive tackles were injured. The starting guard and one of the two starting guards, in a sense, I don't remember exactly who was on the field. Guys, I got reps at offensive guard in the Super Bowl that year. But the Chiefs had to basically revamp their entire line after that. The interior happened in one season. They went out, they got Creed Humphrey, they got Trey Smith, they got Joe Thuney. Offensive tackle is much more difficult than that. Offensive tackles are very expensive. Good offensive tackles are very rare. So sometimes you end up with a Jawaan Taylor who's not a very good offensive tackle, but he is a very expensive one. You know? And if you screw up and you pull that trigger at left tackle, where you're probably looking at someone who's 30% more expensive than Jawaan Taylor, it can set your entire franchise back. Now, say what you will about Brett Veach's free agent acquisitions so far, the closest he's done to setting the franchise back was Frank Clark. Every other thing that he's done, he's signing guys in line with market expectations, oftentimes at a discount to market expectations. But the big names that he has to go out there, the big positions that he has to go out there, he's signing guys right in line with what you would expect. They haven't worked out a lot of the times. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Frank Clark, Jawaan Taylor, etc. But he's not done anything that was particularly harmful. That's what gets a lot of franchises in trouble. There's one shiny name out there in free agency, the big fish, and he happens to play at the position that you need, and you think you're one position away from a Super Bowl. These franchises will overpay for it, break the bank, and all of a sudden, the answer isn't in the back of the book. It just wasn't right the whole time. And a lot of it, look, Frank Clark, I give Brett Veach a lot of credit on Frank Clark because he was a different guy in Seattle than he was when he got to Kansas City. Just didn't work out. But you look at that tape, you look at those stats from his time in Seattle, and you thought, yeah, this is the next big defensive end. The big bank-busting moves Brett Veach has made have been trades. So he's gotten an old contract. That's what happened with Frank Clark. That's what happened with Orlando Brown Jr. Neither of those guys worked, but he didn't break the whole bank because it wasn't just a free agency deal. Now, here's something interesting. This is the PFF on DJ Humphries for the length of this season. Not a whole lot of snaps there, but a 44.8 overall grade, a 30.5 pass blocking grade. That's rough. And a 66.1 run blocking grade. Here's Wanya Morris, the most consistent man on the offensive line. A 53 overall, a 55.4 pass block, and a 55.2 run block. He's just kind of who it is that he is. I don't know how you have a 55.4 and a 55.2 and your overall grade becomes a 53, but that is straight across the board. Now, I don't know how they get their grades. It looks to me, and maybe this is just the law of large numbers playing out, DJ Humphries hasn't had a whole lot of snaps, so he hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to screw things up running the ball. But Wanya Morris, maybe maybe he's not the most consistent blocker, but boy, when he puts somebody on their back, he puts them on their back in the running game. To see Wanya Morris scoring 25 points better than DJ Humphries, that is worrisome to say the least. And the big question remaining, if the big question is the left tackle position, the question about the question is how much is Andy Reid willing to help out the offensive line, and in particular that left tackle, in the playoffs. Andy loves to leave his offensive line on an island. We've seen this season a lot of chips. We've seen a little bit of help in other ways, and that has at times hampered the offense. How much is he willing to help that offensive line in the playoffs? If the answer is quite a bit, then I don't know how much the actual starting left tackle matters. Because if your answer is we're going to put Noah Gray on the left tackle's hip and he's just going to be there, well, you've got Nuke Hopkins that'll catch a pass. He's definitely going to catch it. Patrick can put it wherever he wants, where only Nuke can get it, and you'll convert that first down. You have Travis Kelce, who's probably going to drop a couple, but then he's going to make a couple big plays. You have Xavier Worthy, right? You have different answers, but you're not going to have all of your weapons if you are wanting to help out that offensive tackle. I think that might be what we end up seeing in the playoffs, is a whole lot more help attached to the line in order to give that left tackle some more time, but the problem is, I hate to be recursive on this talking point, every left tackle along the way this season that has gotten help has still set up too far outside. So you'll see a tight end to the outside of the left tackle, and then that left tackle takes his pass drop and sets up outside, allowing a cutback lane directly towards the quarterback, which I don't know how that happens. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And I hope to have you back for the next one.